Hi everyone, this is GABRIEL, and this is the operator hindsight for Pramanix the Prerita. Pramanix altar is a very simple and straightforward operator, so let's get right in. Pramanix the Prerita is a 6-star Phalanx caster in the caster class. Trait of the archetype normally does not attack but gains defense plus 200% and resistance plus 20. When skill is active, attacks deal AoE arts damage. Like the new Silver Ash, she's also considered part of the big Yarak faction. Here's a breakdown of Pramanix. Aside from being obviously an AoE arts damage dealer, there are a considerable amount of crowd control that Pramanix packs, most notably the AoE movement speed reduction from her Snow Tile talent. We'll elaborate on that when we go through talents and skills, but the core principle of how she functions is clear. Crowd control helps to keep enemies in range while she takes care of them. Talent 1. Snow falls every 5.5 seconds onto tiles within attack range, dealing 75% attack, 80 at potential 5, as arch damage to any ground enemies passing through the affected tiles. Each stack of snow reduces enemy movement speed by 12%, stacks additively up to 5 times, which is 60%. Snow on the tile disappears when the first enemy leaves the tile. Talent 2. Upon taking damage, inflicts cold on enemies for 1.5 seconds, 2 seconds at potential 3. If taking fatal damage, recovers all HP for once only, and freezes herself for 4 seconds, while freezing all enemies in range for 8 seconds. For those snow tiles, they can only be spawned on any passable ground tiles, so fences which are not taken as viable paths do not spawn snow. Holes are passable, but snow doesn't spawn on them either. Those two are the notable exceptions. It also is a little confusing in the talent's description. The snow tile will keep its effect as long as the targets that have ever stepped on them haven't left the tile. It doesn't matter how many of them are on it, but as soon as any of the affected targets leave the tile, the snow will despawn. But enemies TPing or jumping away like Crown Slayer doesn't make the snow disappear. Basically, the talent is the core of her functioning logic. Movement speed reduction helps to keep enemies in range, which is very important for the wide but short range nature of Phalanx casters. They may only have 2 to 3 tiles of effective range for enemies going in a particular direction. It helps to supplement damage off skill as well, although honestly not a lot. The key is still about the AoE stall on enemies to buy her time between skills, and it does have different interactions with all 3 of her skills. Talent 2 provides her with cold on hit and one-time self-revive. Pretty straightforward, and the self-freeze is the same status effect from enemies, and it wouldn't cause Pramanix to lose resistance, which is the effect of friendly freeze. The talent can counter fast-hitting enemies. If they attack fast, they get punished with cold and freeze. Typical examples are the doubling flamethrowers, the during casters, etc. etc. With this talent, Pramanix can be hella-dropped into enemies, usually with skill 3, which has fast startup. I would recommend doing this with Silver Ash on field because he'll be able to nullify the self-freeze on her revive, buying the entire 8-second freeze for safe damage. Don't forget, freeze also reduces enemy resistance by 15, which is a great boost for her damage as well. Silver Ash's on-deploy SP and fragile from skill 3 is also massive. So if you have Pramanix as the damage core of your team, swapping her with a low-cost unit for earlier deployment is a viable move. It will get less effective when an enemy is attacking beyond her range or is immune to freeze though. Pramanix has a module on release. Trait update, damage dealt now increases by 3% for each enemy in range up to 15%. Upgrades goes to Talent 1, the snow build-up time for each stack reduced by 0.5 seconds, and the damage dealt when enemies step on snow increased by 25%. Additionally, 1 stack of snow is spawned in her range on deploy. I've criticized the module-wide base effect when it releases for Cornelian and Lin. I still think it's questionable, but at least the movement speed reduction in Pramanix's kit helps to better keep enemies in for the effect. The base effect brings the majority of the damage improvement, ranging from 11.13% with 1 target to 24.08% with 5 targets. For upgrades, the snow damage increase and stack on deploy helps to supplement damage and crowd control to help her make some impact off skill. Overall, this is a damage plus function upgrade. The damage improvement is moderate and situation dependent at best. Skill 2, which supposedly is her most used skill, doesn't have range extension to better take advantage of the base effect. That may be a big con for a lot of players. If she were to have Module X, it could help her better tank damage, which has positive gains with her cold reflections, and to aid her when enemies made it near her. All these possible survival bonus barely changes what she already offers, and that's the key for the Module X appeal. But the thing with modules again, we never know when we are getting a second module for an operator. Considering that Pramanix is now a super popular AFK pick, I'd say the time and pick rate factor could justify for the cost. Recommend level 3 for using her in AFK. For skill recommendation, I'd say skill 2 over skill 3 over skill 1. Skill 2 for sure is an exceptional AFK skill, so much so that it's on par with quite a lot of older generation Annihilation skills. The skill extends the snow coverage to a much bigger area while applying extra DOT to snow tiles and can protect the blue box to some extent by stacking snow on it and eventually freezing it. Skill 3 is more in line with the demographic of Annihilation skills. In case you guys are still not familiar with the term, it just points to skills that you would hold on to until the last second to deal with a major wave of enemies. Skill 3 has high total damage, high DPS, comes with resistance ignore for damage quality, lure, and faster snow stacking for extra crowd control to keep enemies in range. Skill 1 is a short cycle stack skill that can spread snow rapidly and push off targets in one direction, basically making them walk all the way back. But you know the thing with shifting, it's not gonna work with heavy enemies, so it's more just beating up mobs. So, skill 1 deals 520% attack as arch damage to all enemies within range, inflicting cold for 3.5 seconds, spreading snow and pushing them with moderate force in the deployment direction. Snow spreads up to 5 tiles forward and can store 2 charges. This is a 12/12 skill, meaning that at Mastery 3 you can land with 1 sec. Skill DPH is about 5.4k to 6.1k depending on the module base effect stack counts, which is quite hard-hitting if you see it as a shift skill. However, moderate force suggests that shifting part is more just for the concept, but not the key seller of the skill. For mechanics, the push is an AoE fixed direction force regardless of the relative position with targets. So that behavior is pretty similar to Enforcer. The spread snow tiles have the same stack progress as the snow tile of the same row or column. So do try to use only after you have full stack snow in the range. The principle is pretty understandable, pushing them back and laying a path of snow that slows them as they reapproach. It's also a very fast and sustainable refresh of snow tiles for the crowd control. As long as you have the full stack snow available in range, you can brush it out every 12 seconds, and that's much faster than the natural stacking process. The design of the skill also makes her stays off skill most of the time to better take advantage of her survival bonus, much like how Laser Alter skill 1 does. You can also opt to use 2 stacks back to back for AoE freeze. In IS, you can pick this skill if you need the crowd control, since similar to Silver Ash Alter skill 2, she can freeze enemies in one skill use when comboing with Gnosis IS module, and that freeze is easily relayable with Gnosis skill 2 as well. Cons to it though, 1, the push force is not moving anything beyond wave 3, and only barely with wave 3. The snow spread is incredible, yes, but it's also very terrain dependent. You don't get maps where ground tiles are this open all the time. But still, it's a very efficient crowd control skill with how fast you can replenish the tiles. Rather than saying underrated, I'd say the skill is just overshadowed by her other 2 skills, but definitely among the skill ones that are worth the try these days. Skill 2 attacks deal 380% attack as arch damage, and snow spreads to surrounding tiles after reaching 5 stacks, up to 20 tiles. Ground enemies on snow tiles take 20% attack as arch damage every second and are inflicted with 5 seconds of cold after leaving the snow tile. When snow accumulates on the blue box 5 times, it freezes. This is a 0/45 unlimited duration skill that can be manually deactivated. The skill deals 4k to 4.4k DPH with a 200-ish snow tile DPS, and that gives a total DPS of 2.2k to 2.47k, and honestly that number is absurd. We'll talk more about it coming up. So, the skill can create up to 20 snow tiles off range regardless of distance. Whenever a snow tile reaches max stack, it will attempt to spread to an adjacent tile. The progress of spreading can happen from multiple snow tiles to a same new one. So sometimes you may feel, spawning a new full stack snow tile doesn't seem to take 25 seconds all that long. That's the reason. This also ensures that when enemies undo a tile when surrounding ones are still intact, that snow tile can be replenished very, very quickly. The frozen blue box, it's actually a summon, which you may already know since you can literally click on it to see its stats. It's actually okay in terms of durability. It's got almost the same stats as Jessica Alter's mobile shield and has 15 more resistance. It behaves pretty much the same as any other summons, barring that it can be manually retreated. Operators don't select it as a heal target, but it can be healed by passive healing. And it can be selected by talents or skills that can target summons, like Holocaust Bubble, Intellicia's skill to Psychs, so it's also susceptible to all kinds of status effects. Yes, the frozen blue box can be frozen, which is absolutely hilarious. It does have a lower taunt level and won't be prioritized. This is very understandable because really its one key job is to provide extra safety and blocks enemies who are about to enter the blue box, and you don't want to waste its health until they start blocking. And of course, it wouldn't block out aerial enemies or the ones that can't be blocked from the start. To utilize the snow spread, there's usually two major ways. One, you can have her in an open area where all the initial snow tiles can go to different directions. This one tends to spread really quickly due to the snow stack mechanic. Or you can cut off some other directions so that the snow propagates in one way only, but can reach far away. However, this also tends to spread slower, especially when you got a narrow lane. Propagated snow tiles start damaging and slowing down enemies from a greater distance, and can be used as a crowd control centered unit to support other damage dealers. The addition of cold on leaving a tile adds countermeasure to fast moving enemies, so if they manage to cross two tiles in quick succession, they will be locked into a 5-second freeze. This is there so that a fast mover doesn't wreck all its way through the snow and leaves the trail for enemies behind. In fact, they will be pinned down over and over. Another important interaction is that ranged enemies will sometimes freeze themselves as they get cold from both leaving a snow tile and hitting Pramanix at approximately the same time. This is a very well-designed synergy within her kit and happens quite frequently in game. The word dominance is not enough to describe this skill. It's the explosive dawn in AFK skills. Again, it can deal up to 2,475.4 DPS. The last 3A skill, AoE Arts AFK, was Marcial's skill too, and the DPS of that skill is 1,479.8. Absolutely savage. It's borderline unbelievable that this is the stats for an AFK skill. The warm-up time for this skill is 45 seconds, shorter than the typical AFK skills who are usually at 60 SP. Yeah, I know she doesn't do much off skill, but trading some chip damage for a 15-second faster warm-up is a deal that I would gladly take. She starts chipping away enemies' HP from a distance, with trash mobs likely falling to the DOT without even getting close to her. The same movement speed reduction can be easily taken advantage of by teammates. 60% slow for more than half of the battlefield is insane. That snow DOT is a great countermeasure wherever the damage instance gimmick is present as well. You shouldn't put all your eggs into the frozen blue box, but it does provide some extra room for error and has found its impact in a lot of Pramanix solo clears. In practice, as long as the snow has propagated all over, there will be fully stacked tiles to help quickly regenerate new ones, even the frozen blue box. It's literally the friendly Nethersea brand, in the sense that breaking one or two wouldn't stop it spreading, and it's insanely powerful. To use skill 2 in daily, you can add attack buffs since it doesn't come with any attack bonus. Most commonly, you can have Scotty Alter skill 2, monster with a reconstruct around, or just bring Aelfheala in your team. On the survival end, having Silver Ash on field basically solves all the problems. At the same time, his skill 3 can prep her for earlier deployment, and the coordinate attack can cover the entire warm-up phase. Absolute game changer. Skill 3 attack range expands. The range is the exact same as Hoshigama Alta's skill 3, as well as the skill 3s for all 2 of the previous Phalanx casters. Immediately lures all enemies within range for 10 seconds to the closest reachable ground tile near her, increasing snowfall speed to 1.5 seconds per stack. Attack plus 100%, attack speed plus 30, attacks ignore 10 resistance, and every attack deals 260% attack as arch damage. This is a 42/50 35 second skill. The skill deals 5.5k to 6.1k DPH. With the attack increase, enemies take even higher damage when they step on snow tiles. That plus the faster stacking and replenish speed, they are low-key deadly as well. Without even considering the snow tile damage, the skill does 126k to 141k total damage, with a 3.6 to 4k DPS. That is definitely Annihilation skill level. Snow tiles spawned in the extended range will persist after the skill ends. On skill activation, Pramanix creates a lure destination for all enemies in range, assigning a passable ground tile closest to each enemy among the 5 tiles around herself, as shown here. That includes the tile that herself is on, so be aware when you have her on ground tiles, enemies could walk up to her. If the enemy doesn't have a viable path to the set closest tile, or if there's just no available passable tile in these 5, the lure ends immediately, as if it never happened. That's basically how it works. As a new Arts Annihilation option, it has decent startup at 8 SP, which is the exact same as Hoshigama Alta's skill 3, and faster than Logo's skill 3. However, it is a long cooldown skill at 50 SP, and although the snow she left behind has some impact, she'll definitely need to still relay with other skills, since she doesn't attack at all in downtime. The faster snow buildup helps to better maintain the maximum 60% movement speed reduction and combos with the 10-second lure to keep enemies in range as much as possible. Honestly, it is indeed very hard for enemies to walk through her skill range alive. And credit certainly also goes to the inherent good damage number and the quality guaranteed from the 10 resistance ignore. By drawing enemies near her, she also has to face some pressure from range attacks with her range. It's just the same problem to skill 2. Skill 2 builds more snow to keep enemies away but has a shorter hand, while skill 3 has a slightly longer reach but less snow to work with. These are mostly nitpicks. You can always just bring a Silver Ash, just like having a Galadia for LPNs. Before we move on, here's a comparison between the popular multi-target Arts Annihilation skills. And to sum up Pramanix skill 3, she has a bit of everything. Her total damage is decent, not as much as Hoshigama. The resistance ignore is good, though not to Deserter level. Her range is okay, but maybe not as far-reaching as Logo's. So I think her advantages come down to AoE and crowd control. She's the only AoE skill in this list. Everything about her, the lure, the snow damage, they are all AoE. More importantly, her AoE crowd control. Enemies literally crawl in her range. Oppressive, especially against melee-only enemies. So to wrap up, Pramanix the Prerita is again a very simple but effective operator. She deals AoE damage and AoE crowd control to keep enemies in, so that she deals with them. In Arknights, damage plus crowd control is a marvelous start of a damage operator. From here, the only way to fail is having terrible numbers. Wizardel, Logos, these are all operators that packs damage and crowd control and bring home the trophy. For Pramanix, she has massive range disadvantage when compared to them, but her crowd control is on a different level as well. A talent-driven movement speed reduction, cold and freeze, lure, she uses these tools to make up for the disadvantage. And finally, big shout out to skill 2 for being an AFK skill that packs unbelievable mechanics and numbers. Compared to Lin, who's known for her durability, Pramanix is vulnerable, and that really remains the only nitpick I can bring up for her. Perhaps giving her Module Y on release was a way for them to keep track of her strength in the game. For daily, words are pale when explaining her impact. I was cautiously optimistic when Opian's Skill 2 came out, but this time, I'll definitely say Pramanix Skill 2 is a whole different powerhouse in the daily experience. For new players, Skill 2 has most of its power in E1, so go all in for it. It's enough to cover AFK and the heavy lifting in the early game. She can literally solo a number of annihilations. For AFK, if you let this skill slip under your radar, you are dismissed from the AFK party. There are probably a ton of footage that's been shown in the video by this time. So for veterans, definitely a no-brainer new 12 ops candidate. Whether you settle for the skill 2 AFK or use her skill 3 as your new relay option in annihilation skill cycles, she's good. 10 out of 10 daily character. For advanced, well, like we discussed in skill 3, she doesn't break the ceiling in any ways, but more of a new option that comes with her unique advantages. And in IS, that includes working with her Yerak team. Of course, she's also competitive as a possible caster first pick, depending on your strat. For example, in IS5, she shares the same hand relic with Wizardel, so definitely a possible option with Lamp of Wishes runs. Skill 2 benefits massively from attack and attack speed buffs. This is an AFK skill that you can bring to hardcore content with no problem. Skill 3 has a lot of inherent bonuses, so it benefits to a lesser extent, but instead works great with SP recovery buffs. And with Calcid Altar in the future, who basically makes back-to-back skill uses a low-effort move, skills like Pramanix Skill 3 will continue to thrive, just like when we predicted with Exia Altar Skill 3. In the ongoing Stronghold Protocol Alliance, if you play the Yerak faction, you could have her as an optimal tier 6 selection to serve as the damage core. She will be enlisted as a preset operator in the next installment coming in about 3 months though. There are 2 major ways to use her. You can either take her skill 2, which will warm up extremely fast by having a quick combat rations with her. You just need to buy an Eunectis for that, or just use skill 3. For other game modes, she absolutely wrecks in RA raids with a lot of enemies. Same goes for mining. Raids are less of a thing in the brand new RA3 now, but the newer, rather compact map layouts are also good news for her, I guess. And then in debuff contents, she has the potential, but again, skill 3 doesn't have that deciding advantage against older options, so we can't tell for sure now. Would definitely recommend doing the mastery for skill 3 though. That's gonna be it for this episode. Finally, it's here, and I think I'm just gonna go straight to working on Nasty's episode next. I hope you enjoyed the content, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye bye.